Okay, senators finalizing sanctions on Russia this week. I guess it's targeting Vladimir Putin and Russian business. Let's find out. Nobody's really focused on this story. We've got Florida Senator Rick Scott. Senator Scott, welcome back to the show, sir. What's happening with this so-called bipartisan sanctions bill, and why hasn't action been taken, and why aren't we communicating it to Putin and so forth and so on? What's going on, sir?
Well, it all starts with Biden. We have a weak president. He's weak on foreign policy. He's weak on Russia. He's weak on China. He could do these things. I'm not sure what we would pass that he can't do. He can already sanction Nord Stream 2 to stop it. We tried to do that, and the White House and Democrats blocked that. He could do more sanctions now. I'm sure there's more that we could do, but he could do more sanctions now. He could provide more aid to the Ukraine now. I mean, this is all up to the president. I'm glad we're having a conversation here about what else we can do to support Ukraine, which I think we should. But why? What's Biden doing? Why, when he already has the authority to do things, why shouldn't he max out what he can do before he ever comes to us and says, hey, well, I want you to give me some more authority? That's what doesn't make sense on this. He's just weak. The guy's weak. He's incompetent. That's why Putin's on the border of Ukraine right now.
You know, it just occurs to me, your point, you know, Biden could impose sanctions with executive authority. Just bang, just do it. He might have to come back to Congress in a couple of months, but he could do it right now. Instead of always reacting to Putin, he could be aggressive. But what I don't understand, Senator Scott, is how can it be? I'm told there's a banking system sanctioned. The big Russian banks will be sanctioned. Not the international payment system called SWIFT, but the large banks will be sanctioned, and some rich oligarchs will be sanctioned. Okay, sanctioning the large banks, good, fine. But I'm also told they're not putting in Nord Stream 2 sanctions, that the White House opposes that. I mean, I thought that was what started the problem in the first place a year ago. How can it be?
It doesn't make sense. First off, Biden is the one who has allowed Nord Stream 2 to go forward. Biden is the one with the Democrats that blocked a vote, blocked us to make sure we lost in a vote last week. I think it was 55-44. We had to get 60 votes. Oh, by the way, the Democrats used the filibuster to block that. But think about this. He's the one who's done this. He's put us in this position. He should use all the authority. I was governor of Florida. What I would do if I had a problem, I use all the authority of the office before I ever would go to the legislature to say, hey, I need some more authority to solve a problem. Biden needs to go do everything he can first, and then come to us and say, I don't have enough authority to hold him accountable. I need your help.
Yeah, you know, these Blinken, Lavrov phone calls, and I mean, I'd like Blinken to call Lavrov and tell him, we just sanctioned your largest banks, and we just took your whole system out of the international payment system. I mean, wasn't it? I mean, Senator Scott, day one inauguration, within the first hour, they knock out the Keystone Pipeline. We talked about this. We had Governor Mike Dunleavy of Alaska on. They took away ANWR. They took away Willow Bay. They took away the Naval Reserve, higher fees on public lands drilling. And I know that the Afghanistan catastrophe has a lot to do with Putin's aggressiveness, but these oil moves took power from America and gave it to Putin. Because Putin dominates Europe. He just told me he dominates Europe. And the Germans, they're not going to do anything. You know, woof, 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 my paws, my paws. They're not going to do anything.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. First off, look at what's happened to gas prices. So who's gotten hurt? American citizens are paying, what, another buck a gallon for gas? Okay, Putin has more power. OPEC has more power. Now Putin's laughing at Biden. He amassed troops on the border. He's threatening Ukraine, but he's also putting at risk our allies Poland and Lithuania that are actually willing to stand up to Russia and China. So, I mean, it's like, who's he representing here? Who's Biden taking care of? I mean, it seems like he's taking care of Putin more. He's taking care of American citizens. We're getting high gas prices, and Putin is in a position that we're going to have to give in to something, or he invades Ukraine. It doesn't make any sense here.
That's right. I like that. Biden has really put himself into a deep hole. It's going to be hard to dig out of it. And, you know, Senator Scott, just two things. I'm going to link them. They shouldn't be linked, but there's rumors of a White House package for more COVID spending. $800 billion is unspent. Rumors of a new package. And can I just editorialize, sir? I don't want to go off hinged here, but you know, Americans are very worried about the Ukraine border, but I think the border the Americans are really worried about is the U.S.-Mexican border, which is just a totally tragic, catastrophic story. I'll give you the last word on both, sir.
Okay, number one, on the budget, I just left the budget committee. I asked the acting director of OMB what the debt was, national debt, didn't know. What our revenues are, didn't know. What our expenses are, didn't know. What our deficits, didn't know. Couldn't tell me the exact amount of unspent COVID dollars. All right, so I mean, that's the person that runs OMB and has run it for the last year. On top of the border is just completely open. But the worst thing about the border, right, in my opinion, right now, is one out of every 3,000 people that were alive 1 year ago in the United States died of a drug overdose. Oh. And a lot of those are kids that took one pill, had fentanyl made in China.
That's such an important point, sir. That is such an important point. Anyway, we're relying on you. You're the head of the campaign committee. The cavalry's coming. This got to be fixed. America's very impatient, and so am I. Thank you, Senator Rick Scott. Terrific stuff.